Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. I am honored to be in your presence at this stage in history. The most amazing shift is about to occur and is in fact occurring as we speak. Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the world. Sorry, my computer is getting hot and cranky. All right, so this is the Solar Flash update for February 8th, 2024. And I want to discuss a concept which I think is very important for our evolution. And that is to seriously question your reality and then change it. Hello and welcome back. This is Mahadev, the Thunder Wizard. So today we're going to be talking about that, and I do have a list, so make sure that you stick around because I'm not going to get lost going off on tangents. Because we're going to talk about specifically what you can do to question your reality and then change it. It's the bottom line is that shifting to 5D, if you believe in such a thing, is not something that's going to happen if we sit around, continue to interacting with our reality like we always have. As I've said before, my experience and my belief is that 5D is not a place. It is a frequency. And what is happening right now is that we are in fact experiencing the solar flash. It's been going on officially since the end of 2022. It's been going on for, ever since then. And it has been incrementally shifting the consciousness of people on this planet. But you must interact with it. It's not something that happens to you. It is something that, in fact, you create. All that's happening that we're experiencing now is that the frequencies are shifting, and we're seeing this on every level. I really wish I could talk about some of the things that I'm observing, but let me just say the weather events that we're seeing around the world, like the ones that you saw that are just finishing up in California, those are not natural. Those are not happening because of nature. That's not happening because of global warming. There's something artificial about that. I'll just leave it at that. So that kind of craziness is going on. People are waking up to the reality that there is a dark force elite that are controlling things, seeking to manipulate and enslave the human race, and they've been doing so for, I'm going to say, 2,000 years. But that is no longer being kept secret. That is being revealed, and that narrative is falling apart. And human beings are beginning to be aware of their spiritual identity, who they are, and what they're capable of. There's a good, probably more than half, and I'm being generous, more than half of the population is clueless to what is happening, but they're experiencing it. So the first thing that we must be willing to do is to question our reality. Not just question the narrative. It's not what I'm saying, although that is part of it. Questioning the narrative is the first step. It was for me. I started seriously questioning the narrative in September of 2021. That's when I really became aware that the narrative that was being presented to me by YouTube, mainstream media, government, all of that stuff, that's when I really started coming to the realization that all of the tinfoil hat people were right. That there is a dark force elite that is running just about everything possible, and that they're tightening their grip. And that was a huge revelation and a blow and a mind bender, and it was a traumatic event for me. And then I started getting downloads. I started having shamanic dreams and visions that something was coming, and I started thinking, I started having these experiences leading me to believe, is there some other kind of consciousness out there? Is there some kind of extraterrestrial thing that's influencing us? Because I didn't believe in extraterrestrials. And of course, now if you've been following my channel, I not only do I believe in them, I communicate with them on a daily basis, or almost on a daily basis. So I no longer am questioning the narrative. I know that the narrative is a lie. It is a manipulation and a lie, and that is obvious. But our reality itself needs to be questioned. So not just questioning what you see, like with your eyes, your experience. The idea is that we are living in a 3D virtual reality game for the soul. And so like any video game, any 3D, virtual reality experience, it's an illusion. It's designed for you to feel as though you're part of it and that there's a reality to it, but it's an illusion. So I'm not just saying that, that's obvious as well. I'm telling you to go even deeper, which is to question the reality of who you think you are. This is what is going to make or break your ability to shift into the next frequency, which we're calling 5D. That's going to happen as a result of you questioning your identity, where you were born, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, your definition of yourself as a human. That needs to be questioned. Because to function on a higher dimension means that you can no longer be the person you think you are now. So the good news is that if you're able to do that, once you go, again, we're going beyond the narrative, questioning that. We're going beyond questioning our physical reality. We're going to question our existence, our self, our identity. When you can go beyond that, then you can do anything. There is nothing stopping you. If you don't go that far, if you just go back to questioning your physical reality, yeah, there are some things you can change, but only up to the limitations of the third dimension. If you're only questioning the narrative, yeah, there are things that you can do, but only within the definition of, three-dimensional human reality. You can try and change the narrative. You can try and unseat the elites and start over again, which is what politics is all about. But you'll be stuck within the confines. Just to give you an example, somebody left a comment on the video, one of my videos a while back, and said, that sounds really great, but if there aren't any rules, then people will take advantage of you. So that person's limitations are stuck in the political. The assumption behind political parties and governments is that human beings can't be trusted. And if you don't create laws and enforce them, then people will take advantage of you and hurt you. That's an assumption that's proven to be true. But once you adopt that definition, you're stuck in it. So then the rest of your reality for the next millions of years will be about trying to find the perfect government that works for people. You know, that's what supposedly the great experiment of the United States was supposed to be all about. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about how you can question your very essence, and when you can successfully do that and disengage your fear and your survival mechanism and your ego from that, then you're ready to literally change everything, including the reality in which you exist. Before I go any further, if you're new to the channel, I need you to subscribe, like, and comment. Then I need you to go to the free playlists section on the YouTube, the Thunder Wizard YouTube page. Click on the Maoshan Qigong. The second one is the Interdimensional Meditation, and the third one is the 12 Steps to 5D. Those three playlists, if you do something from one of those playlists literally every day, do something, you're gonna start this process. This channel is not about you listening to me talk. If that's all you do, I can't change that, but I'm telling you, you're getting 98% of the benefit of this channel is getting lost on you. You will shift as a result of physically interacting with this matrix and changing your frequency, which then gives you the ability to change the frequency of this matrix. This is only done through the things that I teach. After you've done that, you've done at least one thing on one of those three playlists every day. Then I want you to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You don't have to wait to do that. You can do that right now. This is the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong is at the website thunderwizard.com, and I created that because people asked me. They said, there's so much information, you have so many exercises. Can you give me from A to Z what I should be doing? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I created the Patreon channel. I don't know however long ago that was, 10 years ago or something like that, probably more than that. And since then, it has evolved. And what I have given you now are all of those things, the Mastery of Shamanism course, the Learning How to Master the Matrix courses, and the meditations and all this stuff in there. But the creme de la creme of what I'm offering you is the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And if you do that, just simply press play on the pre-recorded videos and just do what's there and follow it. I guarantee you things are going to shift. Guarantee you. For those of you who are absolutely dead serious and you want the elite practices, these are the practices that we're talking 30 years ago gave me access to turn on the pineal gland, open up all of the energy systems in my body, and allowed me to have so much power that literally I could walk into a haunted house or walk into a demon-infested place, and if need be, I could destroy them with my bare hands. That's the kind of power we're talking about. And the real point behind that power is to be able to intend to change your reality. For that, go to 923.thunderwizard.com. You'll get access to all of the video courses that I have put out over the years, as well as the Maoshan 5-element shamanic moving forms. All right, so back to what we're doing today. We're going to question our reality, and then we're going to change it, because you can't change something if you don't examine it. And examining is a mild word. We need to question it. So, questioning your reality and then changing it. The assumption is your 3D life is not your true reality. Okay, so that's the first thing. It's becoming easier and easier to have that experience. And we are not alone in this endeavor to change and shift 3D reality. How do I know that? Because there's this thing called the Mandela effect, which is a real thing. I'm not talking about the many different, where somebody misremembers the name of their peanut butter or something like that, or they misremember, a lyric in a song. We're talking about reality changing, meaning our history. Not our histories being rewritten by humans. We're talking the history of our planet is literally changing. And this has come about in part because there are higher dimensional forces that are actively trying to get you to question this reality. Because until you question it, you can't shift out of it. And, I'm not going to get into all the Mandela effects, but there was a point in time when I couldn't get enough of it, and my mind was being blown on so many different levels. But the big one, the two big ones are, the first one is Kennedy's assassination. I know because I was born in 1963, which means that a huge chunk of my life, especially when I was a kid, I was flooded with information, constantly being flooded with information about Kennedy's assassination. And the Zapruder film, if anybody who is from my generation, you can see that in your mind. You've seen it so many times. You can recreate it in your mind. And we spent decades, talking about the two-seater car that Kennedy chose to be in. There'd be news programs talking about how he chose to be in this two-seater, the front bench seat and the back seat, and that there was no protection. And he chose to do that because he was a man of the people. And there was all this talk about how he did that. And of course now, if you go look at this Zapruder film or look at anything having to do with Kennedy, it's not two bench seats, it's a three-seater with this protective glass or plastic thing between him and the driver. And that didn't exist. The only people in that car were, I can't remember if it was the governor or the mayor. It was a Texas governor or mayor, I can't remember which, seated in the front seat with the driver. And then the two in the back was Kennedy and his wife. Those were the only people in the car. And now when you go look at it, that's not what you're going to find. And of course, if you're considerably younger than I am, you're going to just think, well, you misremember it. But there are things you don't forget. That's one of them. The second one is our planet is, I think, 34,000 light years away from where it was when I was a kid. Not just when I was a kid, but when I was an adult. Up until 2012. Sometime after 2012, something changed. But our planet was in the outer arm, at the very edge of the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, in the Sagittarius arm. And I'm talking the actual complete outer edge. You couldn't have been further off the edge. I mean, we were, when you draw a circle, we were right there on the very outer edge. And we learned about this in school, we learned about this in high school and college, even the beginning. There's still some remnants of this on the internet. You can find, not just average people, but astronomers, physicists talking about the location of planet Earth. And at some point, that changed. And it wasn't that scientists said, hey, we've realized that the planet is not where we thought it was. It's actually, that didn't happen. history changed. And all of a sudden, you found out that your planet was somewhere it wasn't supposed to be. It's now on the complete other side of the galaxy, halfway in towards the center on the Orion arm. Now, those things don't happen in a universe that is fixed. It doesn't happen in a reality that is fixed. It happens when you live in a virtual reality matrix. Things change in something that's not real. And so the whole point of the Mandela effect has been for people to question their reality. Because once you realize that the planet, and by the way, not just the planet, but all of the surrounding stars and planets have moved 34, however many thousands of light years across the galaxy. And you know, other things like the Black Tom event, where you can go and dig in the ground and find out that it happened. And I can promise you that didn't happen. And it's not a different timeline. It literally did not take place. And this is here to let us know that our reality is not fixed. So if you gain your sense of self and your feeling of safety by feeling as though you know and understand your physical reality, you are dead wrong. So the good news is questioning your reality then opens you up to the fluidity that this is not a fixed place. It is a projection. It's a projection that is changing every nanosecond. And it is being reprojected based on the intention of the observers, which means human beings. Once you understand that, and it's no longer some concept, I've heard about this for years, physicists have been saying this. You know, my dad was a physicist. They say, yes, no, reality is whatever. And we go, oh, that's interesting. Wow, that's trippy. You smoke weed and go, oh man, that's really trippy. That's one thing. But when you realize that just like light is based on the intention of the observer, everything around you is manifested because you have a deep unconscious expectation of what exists. So until you question that, until you understand that this is not reality, you will be stuck here. So our assumption is that your 3D life is not your true reality. So what is your true reality? Your core authentic self is a multidimensional light being. So don't let that sweep over you. I'm only telling you this, of course, I've been teaching something along those lines for, 30 years or whatever it is. But it's one thing to, again, know that, and then it's another thing to experience it. Now, as I've been teaching that over the years, I didn't know what that meant, other than I was more than what I appeared to be. That I'm a soul being, my soul is a light being, etc., etc. But I didn't really know because I didn't have any third dimensional experience of it. Now I do. I've been taken out of this third dimensional reality more times than I can count. And I have been introduced to other versions of myself in other dimensions. I've communicated with other versions of myself, some rather hilarious interactions, and some of them mind-blowing, and some of them just, much higher versions of myself educating me. And I haven't yet revealed publicly what I've been told who I am, because there's nothing in it that'll be helpful for anybody. It'll just be unnecessarily grandiose and unbelievable, so I just don't even bother. But I'm not alone. Other people who are doing this interdimensional meditation are having the same experiences, and they're coming back to me. Those who are my apprentices are coming back to me and saying, you won't believe what they told me about who I am. And I said, oh, trust me, I will. And they have all these incredibly, and it's very traumatizing. I don't want you to think that it's like New Age happy pills where you go and you, oh man, I'm just this wonderful being of light and everything. It is traumatizing because it completely destroys your third dimensional identity, which is necessary to function in the third dimension. Which brings us to the next one. Your human identity is a temporary three-dimensional construct. There is nothing real about the identity you think you are. And why is this important? I'm watching people in my life. I'm watching people in my life who are struggling with reality. They're in tremendous pain. And if you were to talk to them, they would tell you what their limitations are and why they can't do this and why they can't do that and why the world this and all of that. And they're not open to hearing that that is all a made-up construct because they identify with it. Why would somebody identify with something that is painful and damaging and limiting? Because you believe that that is your existence, and if you were to dislodge from that, it would feel as though it's killing you. I'm reminded of something that one of the first experiences I had, and I wasn't the only person who had this experience, but when I first did, in case you're new to the channel, go watch the video How I Became an Extraterrestrial, and you'll find out how all of this shift and change started happening with me. But when I was communicating with these higher dimensional beings in the beginning, they came to me. I mean, it's amazing to me that they did this, but they came to me and just said straight out who I was. This grandiose, unbelievable, here's who you are in the spirit world. And that's who you are. And I went, what? What? And I struggled with that. You guys saw, I struggled with it so much I gave myself frozen shoulder. I was in a lot of physical pain. I couldn't function because I couldn't absorb it. And I struggled with it because I wanted to stay sane. I thought I was losing my mind. And the light being I was working with showed up one day and said very strongly, the strongest interaction I've yet had, said, you have to believe who we're telling you are. It is very essential that you understand and believe what we're telling you. Which meant if I were to believe that, it would mean that everything I thought I knew about who I was would be destroyed. Now here it is, however many years later. That was June in 2022, so it's been over a year and a half now. Right? 2023, 2024. And I'm just now starting to accept that I exist on another plane of existence in a far, far different capacity than this three-dimensional avatar you see in front of you. I don't get me wrong, I'm still struggling with the idea, but I now am more comfortable with knowing that I walk through this 3D life, and that's all that this is. It's a character, it's an avatar, and I'm no longer as identified with all of the characteristics and limitations and all of that, of Michael Denny. I'm no longer as attached to that identity as I was. And I'm shifting more into identifying more and more with this other person, which is why you see all of the changes. That's, the big rebranding you're seeing of me on this channel is about me shifting that. So this is something that has to happen. If you don't go through this, it's going to be difficult to move beyond and be able to change your reality, which is the point of this, to be able to change your reality. Your human identity is a temporary 3D construct. You incarnated into this three-dimensional projection on a screen, and that higher dimensional aspect of you can't fit into the third dimension. So that's one of the reasons you don't remember who you were. People ask, why were we forced to forget? Well, part of it just has to do with physics. The third dimension can only fit so much information. And when you bring higher dimensional information and try and put it into the third dimension, it won't fit. So that means you're not going to remember. When you're walking around using your 3D brain, you're not going to remember all that 5D stuff. It won't fit. But the other reason is because if you remembered it, you would leave. You wouldn't be able to function. And you came here to experience, have a specific experience, which then would allow you to learn to magnify your ability to create reality. That's the whole reason you're here. The whole reason you're here is because when you go back into your 5D self, you will have a greater capacity to create reality. This is a pressure cooker. And this is why it's so important that people not identify that you must believe in the universe. You must trust the universe. Again, sorry for being a broken record. Those of you who believe that false beings of light force you to reincarnate, that belief will trap you. Ironically, create the exact thing you think you're escaping. The belief that something more powerful than you is trapping you here against your will prevent you from following the path you came here to follow, which was, I want to be free of the awareness of my huge divine presence because I want to then learn all over again how to create reality. You can't do that if you don't trust the universe. If you think the universe is a predatory, more powerful being that's out to destroy you, you will stay trapped. And, unless you're willing to face your fear and drop that and just choose to believe something you don't see and you don't experience and you don't understand, which is that the universe is handing you everything. If you own up, if you man up, if you woman up, if you trans up, whatever your identity is, if you pull up your big boy, big girl pants and decide, I'm going to learn, I'm not going to let my fears stop me, I'm going to learn, then you'll grow. But if you're waiting around for Jesus to save you, if you're waiting around for something to come and pick you up and wipe your bottom for you, you will stay trapped, and then you will be completely controlled by the definitions that you have accepted for yourself. I keep using this example because it's something I've seen over and over again. People who can't ask for love. People who get their feelings hurt because they throw hints at. They want people's love and attention. They want people to nurture them and come and give them some love, and they don't ask for it, but they throw hints out, and people don't pick up on the hints, and then they get hurt, and then you say, well, why didn't you simply ask? And they say, I can't. And when you say, of course you can, then they get angry. Well, that's a definition. I can't ask for love. It's a definition. And once you say that and accept that definition, you're bound by it. So that's one example. Saying that you can't find love, that you can't find wealth, that you can't become healthy, that you can't lose weight, that you can't move, that you can't do when you tell yourself you can't do those things, you're now bound by that. That's a definition that the matrix goes, okay, so they can't do this, they can't do that. What else can't you do? Okay, you can't do this, because the matrix thinks you know what you're doing. The matrix thinks that you know that it's all an illusion and that it's a video game, and it's taking everything you say as a rule for the video game. But if you start telling the matrix something else, I can have love whenever I want it, I can be as healthy as I want, I can be as prosperous as I want, then okay, prosperous, okay. And then those things will become the definition of who you are. But the reason why people don't change their definition is twofold. The first one is our deepest human desire is to be loved and accepted by the narrative. Unfortunately, we're programmed that way. If the narrative was a positive one, I wouldn't be complaining. We currently have a negative narrative. But we are programmed to want the narrative to love and accept us. And the second reason is because when we change our definition of ourselves, we die. This is Odin. Odin's sacrifice, it's a really bad word for it. Odin didn't sacrifice anything. Odin's death on the tree of life, his transformation on the tree of life, he says very clearly that he sacrificed himself to himself. He died to his third dimensional definition of himself. And as a result of that, the runes appeared to him. And screaming, he took them up. It felt like it was killing him. He had to go through a death. And that isn't something for us to look at like, oh yeah, Jesus died on the cross. No, Odin has said, no, this is how you do it. If you do what I do, you can have what I have. You want to be king of the gods? You got to do what Odin did. So, your human identity is a temporary 3D construct. Your reactions to life are a scripted character. That's pretty much what I just said. If you say, I can't ask for love, that is a script. It's been written for you. You helped write it. That was your reaction. Something in your childhood, you got the impression that if you had the ability to stand up and ask for what you want, you got punished or you got excluded or you got hurt or you got shamed. So you decided to write into your character that you weren't able to ask for love. You weren't able to become prosperous. You're not able to become healthy. You're not able to attract anybody. You know, you're supposed to be sick and miserable. You wrote that script in there. Other people were telling you, here's what you should write in your script. And you said, oh, will you love me if I do that? And you said, yeah. And they said, yeah. So you wrote it in there. And then that became your character. You put that costume on and that limited you. And so now all of the reactions, and of course you don't like it. You know, people that can't find love don't like being unloved, but they can't help not manifesting it. So they consciously want to be loved. It's not that they're consciously thinking to themselves, I don't want to be loved. No, consciously they're saying, why won't anybody love me? It's the only thing that I want. I want it more than anything else, and I can't ask for it, and you're supposed to give it to me. And they can't get beyond that. It's because it's a character choice. I mean, I'm now glad that I was an actor, because you learn all this about creating characters. You know, you learn the biggest thing about acting when you're talking to your director is your director will say, what is your choice? What is your character choosing? Well, the line says this, but you know, what is the choice there? You have to make a choice. You know, and Hamlet says, to be or not to be, that is the question. Well, you have to make a choice. Is he feeling sorry for himself? Is he asking the universe and waiting for the universe to answer him? You have to make a choice about what it is you're accomplishing. You have to make a choice in acting. You have to make a choice about what you want, what your character wants from the other person. And the great thing about that is that humans do that unconsciously. You don't realize that you're doing things because you want things from other people. So to be able to analyze why you're doing something, what it is you want from the other person, what it is you want from yourself, these are things that are scripted into your reality. So all of your reactions, especially the unconscious ones, are scripted. Do you want to be trapped in a script that other people helped write for you? Or do you want to be the author of your existence? Your reactions to life are a scripted character. Your highest achievement in life is to remember your 5D self. So, everything I've said up until this point sounds great, but it is not easy to do. I wasn't able to do it to the level I am until I was revealed who I truly am. When I began to remember, who I was. And if I told you, I mean, you wouldn't believe me, period. You wouldn't believe me, but it's an amazing story. You've got your amazing story of who you really are, not only on this planet. I mean, I have been told and shown who I was at the beginning of this Earth experiment and the people that I've been. And it's absolutely mind-boggling. But then I've also been shown who I was before I decided to get involved in this 3D Earth experiment, and who I'm destined to be once I walk away from this experiment. So to remember that will give you so much power to change those character choices. Now, I gave you examples of people trapped in those character choices. It's going to be very, very, very hard for people to change those things about themselves. It can be done. By the way, that's what the 12 steps to 5D are about, to give you the ability to change your scripted character. But it becomes a lot easier when you've actually left this third dimensional reality and you've interacted with higher versions of yourself, with other light being family members who are in higher dimensions, who tell you, no, you were this, you were this, you were this. Here's who you truly are. This is your character. This is the way you really are. That's that person you're playing down there. That's not who you are. When you have that and you have access to that higher dimensional energy, it's much easier to change the character and then begin doing the impossible, which is to act completely contrary to all the ways that you've been scripted to act. So your highest achievement in this 3D life is to remember your 5D self. When you remember, you can change your reality. Now the next part is that when I say that now, I'm not the first person to say that last one. When you remember who you truly are, you can change your reality. People have been saying that, that's kind of what Buddhism says. That's a lot of spiritual teachings have said that. It's kind of nebulous as to what it means, but again, changing your reality usually means within the third dimensional matrix. But that has come to an end. The third dimensional matrix is over. And so what we get to do now is to create a new matrix. So what matrix would you create? You get to be the architect. You get to create whatever the hell you want. What would you create? And we're now in a place where even in the third dimension, you can create anything you want. Again, the Mandela effect is proof of that. Reality, history literally changed itself in all kinds of crazy ways, impossible ways. And that was, higher dimensional beings did that so that we would know that it's possible to change this reality. The third dimension is a hypnotic state of induction. So you have to break the hypnosis. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to break people out of their hypnosis. So absolutely anything you can imagine is possible now. And I mean absolutely anything. You want to be 100 feet tall? That is possible. And we know this from all kinds of things. The 4-minute mile, it was impossible to run faster, run a 4-minute mile until somebody did it. And then once somebody did it, then everybody did it. People had to believe that it was possible. And if you can believe that the most amazing thing that you can imagine is possible, whatever that is, you can create it. You can manifest it. But you first have to stop being who you are now. You have to completely die to who you think you are, because it's just a character. It's just a mask. And people get so wrapped up in it. And this is where all of your pain is. If you've got pain in your life, it's because you believe in that mask. You believe it's real and you identify with it. And it sounds easy just to take the mask off and be somebody else, but go ahead, give it a try. It's going to be painful. You're going to have to go through the same kind of death that Odin went through. You're going to have to scream. Dying is not fun. The fear of death is a real thing. And we're so super glued to our mask that we think if we're not that person, we'll die. I was going to say this earlier and I forgot to do so, but one of the first things that happened when higher dimensional beings started showing me all this was that my first feeling was that I was betraying the human race just by talking to them. And I didn't understand that, but I do now. That feeling of betraying the human race was because what they were telling me was that your reality and who you are is not real and you're something else. And when I started to allow that belief to penetrate, I was actually betraying the third dimension. That's why I wrote I wrote 2 books. If you haven't read them, go to my books, michaelwilliamdenny.com. The first one is, I've got multiple books, but in terms of the most recent ones, Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. And then the second one is Interdimensional Revolution. Because I had to adopt the reality, which was not easy, that where I was going was a complete rebellion against the third dimension. And human beings are a third dimensional product. So when I was expanding into other aspects of myself, I was destroying the human in me that's attached to the third dimension. And the projection of that is I was betraying the human race. I was destroying the human race. This is why people are so afraid of ETs. This is why the dark forces have presented to you that ETs are these little gray beings that walk through walls and take you into their spaceship and do anal probes on you. They know what you're afraid of, and they've created your unconscious fear of leaving the third dimension. That's why they created. By the way, all alien abductions, as you've heard me say, are not from extraterrestrials. They are done from third dimensional human beings that have technology that you would think is magic. They can beam stuff into your brain, make you think you're seeing and hearing things you're not. They can use robots and AI androids, and they can use anti-grav things and make you think that you literally, not just make you believe, but abduct you, float you through the air into their ship. And this is what abductions are. And if you look at abductions, if you look at the majority of them, you'll find that there are humans always present. They might have interactions with what they think is a third dimensional walking around extraterrestrial, but there's always humans around. Sometimes they put humans in spacesuits. It's the weirdest thing. The guy Fire in the Sky, whatever it is, whatever his name was, he was abducted, and when he was interacting with what he thought was an alien, he was flipping out, and the alien left the room and humans came in, but they were wearing space helmets. I mean, it's like a child. It's just ridiculous. It's so poorly created, but it works because we are afraid of destroying the third dimension. We feel like it's betrayal of humans, of Earth. We believe it's a destruction of reality on an unconscious level. But this is exactly what we have to do if we want to be able to create the reality that we want. So, your 3D life is not your true reality. Your core self is a multidimensional light being. Your human identity is a temporary 3-dimensional construct. Your reactions to life are a scripted character. They're not who you really are. Your highest achievement in life is to remember your 5D self. When you remember your 5D self, you can then completely change this reality, meaning you can create 5D. And when you remember, absolutely anything you can imagine is possible right now. 5D isn't going to come to you. 5D will be manifested from within you when you shift your frequency. And all of these things shift your frequency. Questioning your reality, just questioning your reality, your frequency starts to change. Now, all of this is that I've written here is all intellectual information until you do the work. That's what the 90-day challenge is about. Do that. You don't want to do that? You live at home, you're 10 years old, and you literally can't afford anything? Great, no problem. Do the free practices. Do something. Stop staying stuck. You're probably going to need some help. I can't do this thing alone. I've got teachers that I work with, physical human teachers that I interact with just to make sure that I'm, not going crazy or lying to myself. So I did this thing all alone. There was nobody out there that went through this 5D shift. I didn't know anybody. I couldn't find anybody that was interacting with higher dimensional beings at the crazy intense level that I was experiencing. And it was very touch and go there. There was a while where I really thought I had lost my marbles because there was nobody else I could talk to. But I've gone through it. And I was able to do it and not lose my mind. A lot of people probably have lost their mind over the course of human civilization. So I was lucky that didn't happen. So I'm here, and I believe that if you want help, you should get it. And I believe that everybody should have a teacher. So I make myself available for that. When you subscribe to the 90-day challenge, go and look for the apprenticeship level and subscribe at whatever level you want, and then you'll get direct access to me. You should have a teacher. Everybody should have one. Okay, that's it. So, and again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, and comment. Click on one of the free playlists, and of course, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge at thunderwizard.com. All right, let's now. Let's see if we can put it just back on the table here. Let us now see what we got going. I covered up the chat. Bear in mind, if you're new to the channel and you haven't read any of the books, if you haven't done any of the practices, if you're not subscribed, there's a good chance that your question has already been answered many times, either in videos or in the teachings. So I'll do my best to be patient and tolerant with that. But if you really have questions, the best way to handle that is to do the work. Spend time on the channel and do the work, and that will probably answer your questions. Also, working with me personally is a good idea. Having said that, I'm just getting you set up in case I have a impatient reaction. I'm working on it. Let's see what happens here. Harold Dale question. I started the 90-day challenge when you came up with it. I've over those years worked up to the latest level. Could I go back to level 1 and start again? Of course. I mean, when we're talking like martial arts, you go and train and you learn all the different katas or the forms or whatever, and you get to the most advanced. The masters, like the Chinese masters, when they get to be about my age, you go and ask what they do. They just do the basics. They go back to the first, they might just sit or stand in a qigong posture for 4 hours a day. And, so going back to the basics is just a fundamental thing. So of course you can go back to the beginning. I encourage that. And he says, yeah, just like you said, like revisiting the basics of martial arts. Look, we're on the same page. I didn't even see that. Goob, welcome to the channel. I assume that you're new. I've talked about this numerous times. And if you watch, go look on my channel for, it was one of the most recent ones, but it has to do with, I'll go over it very briefly, but what I teach is an energy system that basically nobody on this planet knows. The only people who knew this were the very elite Maoshan Taoist warriors. Your basic Taoist practice, anybody that does any energy work is doing something along these lines. And if you're right now, you can go type it in and you'll see what I'm talking about. Jing, Qi, Shen. Jing to Qi to Shen. Jing to Qi to Shen. And for 99% of people, even Taoist masters, they believe this is the only path. If you're going to do that path, you will have to practice semen retention. You'll have to do it. Now, unfortunately, even within that, 90% of the people who are doing it wrong. Because if you do it and you don't have a technique, the only thing that's happening is that your fluids are building up and heat is building up in your lower extremities and you're overheating yourself. I don't recommend that people do that. I don't recommend that anybody do anything unnatural. But if you happen to have a technique, and there's, for those that want, if somebody wants to work with me, they can go up here or get a session with me, and I'll tell you what techniques you can use safely that will help you do that. But the point I'm trying to make is that the Jing, Qi to Shen is actually an introductory method. If you want a method of energy evolution, there's a more powerful one, and that one is Qi to Shi to Yi. So Jing means sexual energy, Qi means life force energy, and Shen means the masculine soul energy of the heart. And that's what everybody's doing. And as I said, that is a path of discipline, and you have to practice semen retention if you want to transmute the energy as it goes up the spine. There's a better way, there's a faster way. The Qi to Shi to Yi. Qi is navel center life force energy. Shi is the electromagnetic energy of the heart, which to my knowledge only the Maoshan taught, which is what I teach here, and I teach it here. So I'm teaching it to you if you're doing any of my practices. Everybody, just to give you an example, before I even understood any of this, I created the Celestial Qigong, which I was reverse engineering the Maoshan spirit fighting forms, and I was reverse engineering it into a Qigong practice. And then Tai Chi masters, Xing Yi masters, Qigong masters would practice it, and they would get back to me and they'd say, I've been doing high-level Qigong, Shen Gong for 20, 30 years, and I've never felt anything this pure or this powerful. Now, what I didn't know at the time is that because I was teaching people how to do the Shingong, not Shengong, Shingong, the power of the electromagnetic force of the heart. And when you do that, you end up having to bypass all of that. You don't have to do any of that semen retention stuff. You just don't need to. So you're asking me if I do any of that. I don't anymore. There was a point in time when I did. I was celibate for 6.5 years. And I did that because I was, and I achieved it. I was seeking to gain superpowers, and I did it. And then once I had the superpowers, I went, well, this is fun, but I'm no happier than I was before, and I went deeper into the spiritual practice. So, yeah. So the answer is no, I don't do that, and I'm willing to bet. I don't know you, but I'm willing to bet that if you are doing it, you're doing it wrong anyway. So I don't recommend it. You should be natural. Let your body just be itself. You know, if you have issues watching porn, that's a whole other issue. But in terms of just allowing your body to be a body and to release fluids when it's, you know, that's, you know, a lot of people who do no-fap are doing it out of emotional damage and psychological damage that they've conflated with sexuality. And a lot of people think if they don't ejaculate that they're somehow more spiritual, and if they do ejaculate, they feel guilt. And this has nothing to do with spirituality or energy work. That is all about psychological wounds from childhood. And a lot of people, especially now, since, you know, little kids grow up and from the moment they're little kids, they're watching porn on the internet. It messes people up to such a degree that they're so confused about sexuality. So people are conflating all this. They think no-fap is spiritual. And, I mean, you'd be better off going into therapy than doing that to yourself. So no, the answer is no. I don't do that, and I don't recommend it if you don't have a teacher. Lightbringer question, do you recommend completing the 90-day challenge before we try to defeat a demon in hand-to-hand combat? I never said that the 90-day challenge will give you powers to defeat a demon in hand-to-hand combat. I never once said that. That is only done at the higher levels of this. The 923.Thunder Wizard, the 5-element Maoshan moving forms. That, if you had a teacher and you knew what you were doing, and I'm not personally teaching anybody. You might be able to do that then, but even then, just to give you an example, there are levels above that I don't teach publicly. There's 4 more levels above that. I can't teach that on video, and I wouldn't teach it unless I knew somebody was destined for that. But I knew of a guy who was in that level. He was at that elite level, and he went looking for demons to fight. Long story short, he ended up getting his foot cut off. So going out, I never went looking for demons to fight. You know, any more than I would go into South Central LA and put on a KKK hat. That's just stupid. So I don't know where you got the idea that doing the 90-day challenge, that not only you get that ability, but that you should go and do that. I've never said that. So let me be clear. Stop doing that. Stop thinking that you're going to go and fight demons. Now, if something comes looking for you, that's different. Then you have practices you can do which will connect you to the infinite. But going out and looking for them, the guys that did that, I knew guys that did that. And they weren't right in the head. They had powers, but things just weren't right. So that's an abuse of that. So let me just be clear. I'm giving you an idea of how much this power can give you, but I'm not telling you to go do that. What else? Goob, again, welcome to the channel. You're brand new. So you ask a good question, which is, how can you trust the information you receive from other beings? I'm not going to get into the rest of your question. Well, let me ask you this. I want you to think of people that you know and love. I'm going to, for this example, assume that you love and trust your parents. Right? Maybe you don't. Some parents aren't lovable and trustworthy. But assuming that you have parents that you love and trust, How do you know that your parents aren't evil beings pretending to be something else? How can you trust their information? When your friends come over and they tell you, let's hang out, you're my friend, I like you, how can you trust that information? Personal experience. There's nothing that, if you've done some, if you talk to somebody who's never been in a plane before, that doesn't know what an airplane is, and you describe it to them, and they tell you, how do you know you're not going to fall through it's because I've done it. I've been on a plane 500 times. You can do it. You're not going to crash to your death. So, Goob, you're asking from your ignorance. And unfortunately, the only way you're going to know is if you do it. I'm here. I've done the interdimensional meditations for a long time. I've had so many interactions I can't even count. You're on my channel because obviously you think I have something to give to you. You're obviously here because you at least are hoping that I have something that you can learn from. And whenever you go to a teacher, it's like if you go to a teacher, and the yoga teacher, well, how do I know that stretching is going to help me? Well, why don't you do it and find out? I don't know if I trust it. So, Goob, you can ask that question all day long, and I could tell you all these reasons, but it means nothing if you yourself don't experience it. And if you aren't willing to either trust the information I give or trust the universe, then you're never going to know. So to answer your question is, how I know is meaningless to you, because if I tell you how I know, you haven't. So go do it. Go do the interdimensional meditation and find out for yourself. What else? I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. Let's see. Somebody here's potentially being a troll. I can't tell yet. Let's see. All right, what else? Ariel says, thank you, Mahadeva. I am upping my game on the practices. I don't know if it's just me feeling it, but I have felt a very odd and somewhat more so uncomfortable energy shift within the past week. You're not alone. I have also felt that. I have felt that, but as I've said, before, the discomfort is coming from, exactly that, Odin dying to himself. And again, this is the challenging part. This is the challenging part of this shift. People are going to have to die to their human everything. And there's nothing comfortable about that. It's a very uncomfortable process. But if you relax into it, it becomes a very blissful process. Now, I think you've experienced this as well, Ariel. Ariel is one of my apprentices. But I think you've experienced this as well. When you experience higher dimensional energy, the first experience you have can be very unsettling, and it can be a very blissful experience. It's like it's almost identical to what people describe when they do ayahuasca, because it's same kind of thing. Ayahuasca is just an external, forced higher dimensional event, whereas we're doing we're doing it without that. It destroys our third dimensional understanding. It destroys our experience of ourself, and it's incredibly blissful. It's near-death experience, and then we come back into our bodies, and then we have to readjust, and that is a painful experience. But when you look back on every single one of those interdimensional experiences, you look back, you realize you're healthier, you're happier, you're more prosperous, you've overcome emotional blocks, you're able to do things you couldn't do before, you work through emotional issues, childhood issues, you have more awareness and understanding of the universe and the cosmos and all of that. So it's just like Odin. Odin's screaming he took up the runes as he died to himself. And this is unfortunately what we're all going to do. And this solar flash event that is in process What is in process right now is that the energy is shifting to a higher frequency. And that's uncomfortable. So there's no way around it. The best way to get around it is to get ahead of it, which means doing the practices. That's why, I teach people to do these practices. And this is why I now know why I've been given this. I mean, if you were to ask me 10 years ago, I would say, I don't know why I was chosen to learn this stuff. But they told me. I mean, I had an experience and somebody said, you've been chosen to learn this. Now I know why. It's because I'm one of the people that's helping people make this shift. And I'm giving people tools to do it. The sad part is that the tools that I'm offering, again, as blissful as they are, it means people have to look at themselves. And that's the main issue here. I didn't put it in the list here. But one of the things that people are going to have to do is they're going to have to consciously decide to examine themselves. Where am I at fault? Where have I been selfish? Where have I been destructive? Where have I been, list your negative character trait. If somebody doesn't have that, that's one of the things, when I talk about the people who say, I can't do this and I can't do that, and they're miserable and they blame the whole world. One of the things that happens is when you ask them, well, are you willing to examine your part? They flip out. They don't want to be at fault. They don't want to have any responsibility for anything. They just want Jesus to come or somebody to come and fix it, or they want everybody to change. In the case of, not finding love, they want people to psychically know what they're feeling before they feel it. So, and just create a bunch of codependent idiots in the world. And, that's just a recipe for pain and disappointment, because nobody does that. But if you're willing to examine yourself, in that case again, where have I had expectations on others? Where have I demanded things from others and been disappointed because people aren't doing what I want? In order to look at yourself like that, you got to be willing to examine. So I know you're one of those people that does that. You are a self-examining person. But that's, the thing that's missing. That's what the human race is going to have to start doing. They're going to have to be willing to examine themselves. And it's a painful process. And it's very frustrating for me because, this is one of the reasons my channel isn't, I think I should have, millions and millions of subscribers. One of the reasons I don't is because I don't co-sign people. I don't kiss people's rear end. I don't tell people what they want to hear. I tell you the truth. And people don't want to hear the truth most of the time. They want to be placated, which is why religion works so well. Anyway. So to answer your question, absolutely, I'm experiencing a higher frequency of energy, especially over the past couple of weeks, and I'm having to continue to do all that. One of the biggest things I'm working on doing is when I go out there and I communicate with these beings, I listen to what they say. And when they tell me, here's who you are, here's what we're doing, and here's what's coming next, I say, yes, thank you, and I repeat back to them. This is something I've learned helps. They tell me, you are the mighty so-and-so of the such and such. I go, yes, thank you. I am the mighty so-and-so of the such and such. I repeat back to them. Because otherwise I'm just asking to just be miserable because I won't be able to comprehend what the hell I just heard. So anyway, what else here? Anthony Playtech question. I've had vivid dreams of being with deceased family members recently. It's as if I'm in another parallel universe when I'm there. Then in the dream, I realize I'm connected to this version of reality and existence. Note, my mom passed in 2013, and this is who I dream of this. Is this all related to the shift? Yes. If you read my book, go get it, michaelwilliamdenny.com. If you read my book, Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, one of the first things that happened, again, let me preface that by saying what is happening in this shift is that for the first time in human history, humans, every single human on the planet now has a greater opportunity to have the same experiences that people who've had near-death experiences. If you were in a coma and died for 10 minutes and came back, those experiences are now open to all of us without having to die. And this is what happened to me. When I reached out, and again, if you're new to my channel, go onto the Aliens playlist and look for How I Became an Extraterrestrial. And, you know, after the first, almost from the immediate interactions I started having with higher dimensional ETs, I was in my house and I was walking around, and, you know, I felt the presence of an ET show up, and he was bothering me all day. He was saying, your mom wants to talk to you. Now, my mom died 2017. You know, and I didn't have the greatest experience with my mom. And I was still very hurt and very angry. And this ET and another, you know, just phased out of our dimension shows up and starts telling me telepathically, your mom wants to talk to you. And I don't want to talk to her. I don't care if I ever see her again. Your mom really wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to her. No, come on. Your mom wants to talk to you. And, you know, the being was encouraging me to go into meditation. So I said, finally, okay, fine. And I went and laid down and I did the interdimensional meditation. And sure enough, my mom showed up. And we went through this whole, you know, clearing the air, which really meant she apologized for all the things that she did. And then one of the most crazy things happened, which is that she said, I want you to understand why I was the way I was and what our karmic connection is. And then I relived a previous life where I was her father. And what had happened is that I remember that in that life I had been severely abused by that, whoever my father was in that life. And so I was distant and I wasn't emotionally available. And she was my little daughter and she adored me and loved me, and I wasn't there for her. So in this lifetime, she brought that with her. And so, you know, whatever dysfunction happened, even though there's no excuse for, you know, what I suffered as a kid, it came from her trying to work through that on a karmic level. And so, you know, that was a big mind-blowing experience for me. And that wasn't it. I mean, that wasn't it. I also talked to my dad who passed away, my sister who passed away, my fiance who passed away. I mean, all these people that had passed away came and talked to me, and I found out that there's no such thing as death. That all that happened is that they unzipped their three-dimensional meat suit and, you know, they're still alive. But they remembered who they were and all that kind of stuff. So this is what you're describing doesn't surprise me. I'm really grateful to hear it, because this means I'm not making this up. This shift is happening. And so when we get to whatever 5D is, the veil between this world and the next won't be there. If you have, you know, if in 5D your parents leave that dimension and go somewhere else, you'll be able to meditate and bring them back and talk to them. You'll still be friends with them. You'll still be able to interact with them, still have a, you know, communicate and have relation. My mom is actually one of my greatest guides now. I mean, she shows up, you know, very regularly and tells me all kinds of stuff about what's happening in the ethers. And I mean, it's, you know, that would have sounded really crazy to me, but, you know, I'm used to it now. So this is just part of shifting up, and it's going to happen for everybody. It's going to happen for everybody. By the way, I think this is why one of the things that's happening with, you know, there was a rash of people on planes. You remember people were getting on planes and flipping out? You know, people were, you know, looking at the person next to them and they'd see a demon or a ghost, or people would rush off the plane saying we're going to die if we stay on the plane. I think what's happening is that the veil between the different worlds and dimensions are starting to open up, and people don't understand it. So if you're walking around and you see some ghost or some other dimensional being, you know, you're going to think that you lost your mind. If I was sitting on a plane and I looked over and I saw some other guy, get the hell off that plane too. What else? Jing Cheney. No, that's not Goob. It's not Jing Cheney. Let me write it down for you. And it's kind of sad because you didn't really hear what I said. I'm saying that Jing to Qi to Shen is the less desirable path, that the one I'm teaching is better for you. But if that's the way you want to go ahead. Jing to Qi to Shen. Go look it up. All right. Is that it? Are we all done? I guess we're all done. I had other stuff I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it was. So in any case, my friends, you know the drill. If you want to get something out of this, oh, here, a question just showed up here. Erdwig, question. My energy work and spiritual path and shift is going amazingly, but I noticed I became more socially awkward with people after the past few years, but I feel much happier. Okay, well. Don't know enough to comment on it, but I can understand why things are shifting. I mean, you're shifting, so our social interactions with people, our interaction with the narrative is going to shift. So what else? In a K2 period. All right, well, I can't comment on that without looking at your chart. Anyway, so that's it from you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to me babble. And again, if you want to take advantage of what this channel has to offer, there's plenty of free stuff. If you're really dead serious about evolving, the 90-day challenge and the 923 are there for you. Of course, my books. And just know that your subscription to the thunderwizard.com site is what keeps me able to focus all my time and energy on this and doing this. So I appreciate everybody's support of the channel, and I don't just ask for donations. I don't believe in that. So that's why I set it up so that subscriptions are always designed around you getting valuable information. So when you support the channel, you always get something, and of course I appreciate it. That's it, my friends. That's all I got. As always, if I've done or said anything that's been offensive or hurtful, know that I'm always trying to come from a place of love and trying to help. And as always, if the flash don't come and or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise and or I don't shift completely out of this third dimensional frequency, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.